The Euroviral contagion is spreading like a disease, and this is particularly evident in Greece right now. So today we will discuss that after Greece, then comes Italy and Spain. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. I want to get into this today, dive deep into the situation, which will unravel. Let's begin with this. Out of Greece, we're looking at the Greek premier accusing Europe's creditor powers of trying to subvert Greece's elected government after 5 years of pillaging, warning his country is going to defend its sovereign dignity to whatever the consequences. Okay, so what happened here? They pledged when they were getting into power that they will not, at all costs, hurt the individual. That is what they will do. They will always protect the individual over the supranational entities like the IMF. And they've been fighting this ever since, but is not going very well, that's for sure. The country may collapse into a state of emergency unless there is a deal to avert a financial crash. That's exactly what's going to happen, and they're going to have to deal with it, but I don't think this is going to be very easy. Germany's EU commissioner is saying that the creditor powers must draw up an urgent plan to cope with social unrest in Greece and breakdown of the energy supplies and medicine as soon as July. Think about any nation that gets into this unrest, whether it's for financial reasons, whether it's a national emergency, food shortage, or what have you. There are always a breakdown. There's always this level of civil unrest. Inflation may rise. We may have a very big problem with the currency. In this case, it's a little different because it's the euro, but we have a very big problem that will unfold and could easily unfold within hours. And the country is not prepared for that. We saw what happened throughout 2011, 2012. Very important to note what is going down right here in Greece. We are getting to the very, very last days of a very serious situation. I don't know if they'll be able to kick the can down the road. I think that they will have to make some sort of major decision at this point. Surely, overall, kicking the can down the road because they can't get rid of the debt. They're not going to just give in at this moment. Let's move into the next article out of Reuters, where they say they've largely exhausted their limits. I completely agree with this, as I just mentioned a moment ago. A Greek government official denied a German newspaper report that said there were plans for Greece to impose capital controls this weekend if the talks fail. You don't need to have this German newspaper report saying they're going to impose it, because they absolutely will. Any nation, in fact, not just within Greece, not just within the Euro or the EU or in Asia or in the whole world, in fact. It is any country will impose capital controls if they see the money leaving the country, if they see money leaving the banking system. They're going to impose the capital controls. They need to protect this system at all costs. Another important note from this article here is that Cyprus is going ahead with the planned visit to Russia. So obviously he's going to meet Putin. We believe specifically that Russia and Greece are partnering to some extent. We don't know exactly what's happening. Perhaps they're going to lend a helping hand at the very last moment for Greece to be there, to be that safety net. We don't know exactly what's going to happen, but we'll have to see for ourselves. Then we have this article out of the Huffington Post. I want to get onto a couple points from here, where we look at the ongoing difficulties in Greece combined with the ECB's dramatic actions to ward off deflation are distracting attention from what may be the euro area's biggest and most pervasive problem, and that is, of course, debt. The debt problem is something that I've talked about in my book, and in this article they talk about the non-financial corporate debt exceeding 100% of GDP. And look at all these countries: Belgium, Finland, France, Ireland, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Portugal, and Spain. And then you look at the gross government debt, close to or exceeding the threshold in Belgium, France, Greece, Ireland, Italy, Portugal, and Spain. These countries are debt-ridden. They look at all of the different types, whether it's on a small scale, the local governments, when you look at the national level, then you look at the corporate level, everyone is going bankrupt. They can't be paid back. Why? The system itself runs off of debt. So what happens? Well, they just get into more and more and more and more debt, and we've run into that carrying load capacity as of the financial crisis. That's when it hit its absolute peak, where no longer they could bring these interest rates down all the way, and that would be sufficient to keep the system going. Look how they're actually running into the negative. It's not doing anything for them. Look at what's happening with the debt. It just continues to expand. They're trying every single possible means of getting around this. It's failing every single time. We can see that right now in Europe. If you think that everything's okay in the US, well, look at the situation that's happening within Greece, within even some of the larger countries like Italy and Spain, and you can see what will undoubtedly happen, these long-term consequences as they're talking about here, and that is exactly what will occur. They get into some more things here in this article, but first I want to mention this from my book, where I'm talking about this excellent book called Meltdown by Thomas E. Woods Jr. You may have read it or seen some of his quotes here. And we're talking about things like asset-backed securities and also the derivatives. Banks have been able to sell mortgages on what is called the secondary mortgage market to institutions like Fannie Mae and, of course, Freddie Mac. And he goes on to say that Fannie bundles up the mortgages and sells them off to institutions for investors to buy. So if you think about what happened with the subprime mortgages crisis, they basically took the mortgage. So you have your bank with ABC Bank, and that bank takes your mortgage, and you think that they're just holding it there, and they're waiting for you to pay back slowly over that 25, 30, 40 year time frame. In fact, that mortgage is sold off to another institution for them to gamble on. They take those mortgages, they bundle them up with a whole bunch of other mortgages. They may call that asset-backed securities, mortgage-backed securities. They may call it a derivatives, whatever have you, doesn't matter. They consider this to be diversified, even if all of these mortgages were rated at the absolute lowest class. The lowest classification of this being the worst of the worst debt, it is still considered diversified. And we all saw what happened during the financial crisis. They rated these at AAA, supposedly diversified. They all came tumbling down, and then the governments had to come in to rescue them. There was no official rescue. All they did was basically kick the can down the road into the future. We see the effects of that. Further into that article I was just mentioning out of the Huffington Post, we see the effects of debt. Look at this debt here. If you can't read that, the very peak there is 180%, and that is Greece. You look at these nations of Greece, Italy, Portugal, Ireland, Belgium, Spain, and France at or near the 100% debt to GDP ratio, and that even considers the fact that they are using legally illicit conduct like drugs to factor in their GDP. This is a complete fraud. Then you look at the nations of Austria, Germany, the Netherlands, and Finland, all at or above 60%. Now, why is the 60% informative and important? And that is the Maastricht Treaty set up the fact that they could not go over 60% of their GDP. And of course, they all do. They can't get out of this situation. They can't get down to 60% of GDP. It's simply not going to happen, simply not going to go anywhere but up. The debt has to continue to increase. But what does this do? When a person is put into debt, they have a few options. They can, number one, claim bankruptcy, or they can begin to sell off their assets. This is what I've shown you in Greece. I've done many videos about this. I also warned specifically on many occasions. Those of you who have been here for a little while know that I am on record saying that every nation will begin selling off their assets. I predicted it with Greece, where I showed you the Emir of Qatar buying off certain islands. They also sold off other types of assets, gone through that before. Then we look at this article out of the Telegraph, where Italy is beginning to sell off their assets. Saddled with a huge public debt and with its economy stuck in the doldrums, Italy is about to offer to the highest bidder an unraveled portfolio of castles, monasteries, palaces, and lighthouses. This is very, very serious information right here, as we see all the nations, as they're put further and further into debt, are going to have to sell off more and more of their assets. The government hopes that the scheme will rake in more than €2 billion by 2017. This is a collection of 686 properties. It's very significant, in fact, that hundreds of their properties are going to be sold off. You're talking about national monuments in some cases. Think about it when the Colosseum, when the Leaning Tower of Pisa are going to be owned by private individuals, by investment banks. Perhaps they're going to be bundled up in some of these asset-backed securities, mortgage-backed securities. Who knows what they're doing with all of this? But it's not going to be the same ever again. You're going to have nations that are purposely put into this situation so that they are forced to sell off their assets. And guess what? That's the exact reason this is occurring. They want the major corporations to own and control all of the countries, not just in the background, but actually coming to the foreground. This is what's occurring right now. This also connects into what we have in Spain, where we look at the Spanish banks being in a very, very bad situation at this moment. Banco Popular is one of those where they are basically selling off a lot of their bad debt. Also have the Spanish banks offering to the unpaid debt and foreclosed assets worth this large amount basically to sell to international investment funds. Another one is Bankia with its Big Bang project, these 38,000 residential units, and it goes on and on. And then I basically want to just note that there has been a significant upward shift in interest from foreign investors in Spain's property markets, mainly on the back of significantly increased purchasing power due to euro weakness. So we have a very important situation to look at within Greece, within Italy, and now within Spain. I'm showing you this right here. This is how it all begins. It starts to unravel. The banks have to sell off all their bad assets. Then it's individuals selling off everything they can. And then you have foreign investment coming in to buy it all up. And then you have basically a situation where the own people from that country are displaced by big corporations, by foreign investors, and you have a nation that is put permanently into poverty. Things are definitely changing right now. When we have a QE program that goes on not just within one central bank, but it is a global policy, you have misplaced capital. You can't have a QE policy that is directed. QE is just simply a shotgun blast up into the sky. Wherever it lands. This is a helicopter drop of money, but it seems like the individuals are never able to get to that. It's always the elite. So look at this. Is there a bubble in Ethiopian property market? And the answer is yes, there is. Look at this. It actually peaked in some areas for the per square meter at $15,000 per square meter. The average lease price of land per square meter for plots in the center of the city is almost $4,000. This is an extremely high number, and we're looking at prices in Ethiopia. You can't control where this money is going. All of this QE, all of this fraudulent debt system that every nation is going by right now is finding its way into oftentimes real estate. Real estate is, in fact, according to The Economist, the biggest bubble in history. That's every single bubble that has ever been created. Real estate is now today as we speak, the biggest bubble that has ever been created. That is what I'll leave you off with today. I hope that you found the video informative. Please note that I am working on the website. It's almost complete. You can check that out at themoneygps.com. Almost done on there. Once that's all done, and I will be able to make a video every single day. There are occasionally days where I'm unable to make that video, and that's not because I'm taking a vacation. I assure you, rain or shine, I'm here to make videos or to work on the website. There's lots of work to be done. I also have a few inquiries recently wondering what's going on with the Money GPS Insiders. Once again, I'll just mention that the Money GPS Insiders was shut down due to financial reasons. But I'm here to work on the Money GPS YouTube channel, there to work on the website, the information that I have on there, on my e-course that I'm giving out for free to everyone, and much more plans down the road. If you found this video informative, I know that you will find my book, The Money GPS, even more informative. And you can actually look through the book for yourself. If you go over to Amazon, they have a look inside feature, and you can flip through the book for yourself and see if you like it. Take care.